Mondays with Mathis, and, well, you wanted to play in the game, Rashean Mathis. You must have cheered real hard. Maybe you can play in this one.
What's going on, fellas? Yeah, it's a good Monday. Definitely a good Monday. Great way to start the year, as y'all mentioned.
What was your feelings in that game as it got late? We know what the games look like sometimes. We all feel that. We've seen enough football to know. As you're watching, because it probably is different as a player. As a player, you're probably like, all right, we got this. We just got to make a play. Got to make a play. You're in the moment. But watching that thing unravel, you're like, oh, man, they missed too many opportunities. They left points on the board, the fumble and the trick play, the miss to Zay Jones. And now they're being stymied on offense. It did not feel good with a few minutes to go, Rashean.
Yeah, it didn't feel good as a fan, but I kind of stay in that player perspective and understand the clock management, understand how much time is still left on the clock, and understanding the offensive threats that you're going up against as a defense, and understanding how our defense was containing Derrick Henry, and that was big for us. So not letting him break away any big plays, and we kept hitting them in the backfield. So I liked our chances at the end of the game. It was ugly, but the good teams find ways to win those ugly games. So it was big.
What kind of pride for you as a former player, seeing that crowd the way it was, feeling it in your hometown city, and the Jags getting the win to beat the Titans?
I was just jealous that I wasn't a part of it on the field. Like it's nothing like that energy that 12th man brings. Like it's an amazing feeling. So ecstatic for the guys that got to experience it, especially some guys that have been here for a while who haven't experienced a crowd like that. And it's just a different type of energy and a different type of love that you see from your hometown crowd.
Rashean, were you seeing anything chronic as you watched the defense on Saturday night that you're like, man, if we make it past the Titans, this is something we really need to lock up immediately?
Well, if you don't allow teams to establish a really pounding run game, it always can turn out well for you. So treat every team like that, right? But at the same time, there's going to be different teams with different weapons where you can't just load the box, and teams are going to have a little more productive receivers. The Tennessee Titans didn't have it, so we didn't really have to worry about them beating us in the air. So it's pros and cons to everything, but we did what we needed to do to win that game. So that was the biggest thing. If we were lining up 9 in the box and couldn't stop the run, then it would have been a problem. And we were able to stop the run and get pressure when we needed to get a push when we were able to get pressure when we needed a push, and get pressure when we needed pressure. So it was some really good things.
You mentioned the receivers, but a team like the Chargers are more dangerous than just Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. We talk about Gerald Everett at tight end, Austin Eckler out of the backfield. So many options on that team. What is Caldwell telling the defense this week? How do you even prep for something like that where literally every pass catcher who is going to be on the field is a threat?
We've been there before, right? It's not the first time we've seen them. It's not the first game we played where we had threats. We're going to have threats all over. Just do your job. Execute your assignment. And if we execute our assignment, if you execute your individual assignment, we'll like where we stand collectively. So that's it. Just encouraging the guys, not putting fear in them, getting the guys that with experience, playoff experience, and talking to these young guys and understanding that it's going to be a surge, it's going to be an energy that we're going to have to withstand, and just stay calm and stay collected.
Rashean Mathis with us here on Brent Friends on ESPN 690. Mathis on Mondays. Jags coming off the big win over the Titans. And I want to get back to some of the Titans stuff in a moment, but I'm going to stay with what Aaron was talking about here, because I thought about this morning too. I'm like, how are they going to play them? This is a different defense right now than the Jags had in game 3 of this season. I mean, they've got guys in different places, and it's working, Rashean. But I also feel like this might be one of those games, like if you were dialing it up in a game plan, isn't this keep everything in front of you and maybe bend is okay, but don't break, force field goals type of thing?
It definitely is. But at the same time, you have to kind of rely on your offense to get some points on the board as well, because this is a team that can put up numbers, being that they do have threats. But that bend and break mentality is a week in and week out mentality. You got to understand that these guys on the other side of the ball, they're getting paid to make plays as well. So there are going to be plays being made, but withstand that energy, withstand that surge, and just keep plugging. And if you eliminate the deep threat in that long ball, we'll have a chance at the end of the game. Not giving up explosive plays on the run game or the passing game.
Yeah, I agree with you, by the way, too. I think this is on the offense to keep pace, to maybe dictate, set the tone. I thought they had the chance to do that last week, and they missed some of those opportunities against Tennessee where they could have forced them to play catch-up, and they did not. What's your sense of kind of like a magical run right now? You know, some people have used the word like team of destiny and stuff like that, but just we know in sports – we watched George Mason make the Final Four, right? You're like, wow, man, that was wild. Like, you know, there was just some things in sports that it just feels a little out of context. You couldn't see it coming.
Even the Phillies winning the World Series.
Yeah, Phillies actually did. The way they came out of there. I mean, what were they? They didn't even win the East, or they lost the East by like, 12 games or something like
third,
that?
Yeah,
they were third. So we see it in sports, Rashean. Doesn't this Jags team have a little bit of that feel like they're going to find a way, and they might actually be dangerous now in terms of going on a run, this Cinderella run?
You hit it on the head. I agree. It's two teams that have that. Is my former two teams, actually, Jaguars and Detroit.
Yeah.
One of them are going to go on a run. One of them are going to go on a tear. I want it to be Jacksonville. So let's find it. That leader on the team, like y'all mentioned, the Phillies, Bryce Harper, he stepped up. So, you know, Trevor, we're going to need you. We're going to need you to step up and be that playmaker and make those throws, because you can't miss. He can't miss like he missed this Sunday, right? So those are the throws, those are the plays that we're going to need him to hit come playoff time. So it's going to be big for us.
All right, let's go back to that. I want to go to that play. I want to talk more about Trevor in that play, because to be honest with you, Rashean, I thought Trevor was playing good football. He was 17 of 21 before that play. He had actually had a couple of drops on him. So 4 incompletions, 2 drops, and they obviously had the missed trick play that really screwed up that possession.
Sure.
But I thought he was slinging it. He wasn't throwing high. He wasn't inaccurate. I thought he was feeling really good in a big moment on the big stage in his biggest NFL career. And then he throws this ball out of bounds by like 4 yards on a late breaking open Zay Jones in the end zone, who ends up, to everybody's eyes, wide open. Do you have any idea, like, what happened? Because I'm trying to figure out the why. Like, I feel like maybe he saw a lot of traffic from his vantage point and could never tell Zay was that wide open. That's the excuse I'm giving Trevor Lawrence on that play.
Well, you know, he's not perfect, so he's not Jesus in cleats. But at the same time,
same hair though.
It was him trying not to make a mistake instead of relying on his ability, right? You give him that play 9, 10, he's going to make that throw 99.9% of the time. It's just him trying not to, you know, he already had the little fumble snap or little fumble pitch, and it's him trying not to make a mistake instead of relying on his ability to make the play. And when we get into that, you're kind of in that no man's land and you're not yourself. And that's why the ball sailed on him, because, you know, he could have, if he seen that open up, he could close his eyes and make that throw.
You know, there were a couple of these plays that I thought were questionable like that, where the ball was thrown either high or wide or out of bounds, but it didn't need to. And I just kept thinking about earlier in the year when he wasn't doing that, when he was sailing balls, throwing interceptions, turning the ball over. And it just feels so much easier to have to explain away an incomplete pass than a turnover in a playoff-like game against the Titans.
And I think that's what it was. It was a big time game, and he didn't want to hurt the team and make them lose.
I mean, we were begging for that earlier this year. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's gotten a lot of flack from it, so he was trying not to do anything to make his team lose. So if I sell this ball, at least they don't intercept it and we get a field goal, right?
I agree with that. I think it was all right there. I've looked at the play from behind him, the TV replay. I do feel like there was a lot of traffic there, but through all of it, he probably still knows where Zay's going. So, like, it's an empty excuse on my part. But the other part of it is exactly what you said. Because 2 plays earlier to Marvin Jones, he was kind of trapped in the corner, and he threw it 3 yards out of bounds. Because to your point, Rashean, he wants at least 3 points. This was a slugfest game. You have to get points. You can't turn it over in a scoring area like you did in the first half on the trick play. So, I think you're right on. The question is, that was a high leverage game for this organization. Do you think he plays free and more willing to make a mistake now in the playoffs, with the Jags being like all gravy and underdogs and let's just go loose and free and shock the world?
I think that's a good mentality to have, but I think it's going to be tough because you are in a team environment and you're not out there solo and you have people depending on you. So he has to get the experience to get there. And, you know, when has he ever been in a big game like that, right, in his NFL career? Like, you can say what you want about his college career, but the NFL is a different monster. So he hasn't been under pressure in games like that. He hasn't had those opportunities. So he'll learn from it. He's a baller. Like, so this is not us knocking Trevor. This is just seeing his mentality and where does he go from here. He's a baller. He's a franchise player. He's the face of the franchise. So I'm not worried about it. We just, you know, I'm sure Doug and everyone is in his ear about, you know, you make that play, leave that alone. Let's go win this game, right? Like, so, and he's doing that to himself as well. So he'll be okay.
I think, by the way, Rashean Mathis with us, Mathis on Mondays, Brent Friends on ESPN 690. I watched a TV replay back, and again, I don't do this all the time. And I saw like 2.5 quarters of it, up until the Zay Jones part, really. And I think it was in that possession. I think it was when they were hurrying up to the line. I don't know if you guys remember this, but he has a great throw to Marvin Jones before they hurry up to the line at the 11-yard line, and then he throws incomplete to Marvin, who was double-teamed in the end zone. So that's the sequence I'm talking about. But as they're trying to go back and watch this play. As they're trying to line up and go fast, I don't know why they went tempo there, but they decided to go tempo because they didn't have to like try to hide a almost catch. It was a clear catch and a good play by Marvin to get down to the 11. But the officials, they must have substituted Rashean because the officials are holding play up. And so they're waiting and waiting. You know how they stand over the ball? And you can,
I know exactly what you're saying.
And you can see Trevor. He's like, get the hell out of my way. He's like, get out of here. Like, and to me, that showed, I'm glad you saw that because I saw that on the replay and I'm like, to me, Rashean, that shows confidence. That shows swagger. That shows like, man, he's starting to tell officials what to do.
It was two of them. One was on the ball. The other one was to his right. And he was talking to the one to the right, like, listen, move, get up out of the way. Let us run this play. We see something here.
And so I caught that. Now, I just feel like that has, you know what, when people start questioning this kid if he had the dog in him.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, people were wondering if he was a fierce competitor.
Yeah. And Rashean, you see it because you know what this means. But when, let's say, I don't know if it's Travis Etienne. I think it was Zay Jones. Zay Jones early on, he trips. They don't get the first down. First guy over to him and grabs his helmet and taps him on the helmet, it's Trevor. And then you could see after they missed the play in the end zone, they're like on the sideline talking it over. But it's not panic, it's leadership. Like you can actually see the leadership from Trevor Lawrence. I think the confidence that he talks about that he's found, like he is now him. He is who he thinks he is. And I think that even with missed throws and missed plays, like he is that guy, Rashean, and I think that's why he probably steps up this week on a stage against the Chargers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think people was questioning his dog because he stays poised and calm in tough situations. And, you know, I talk to my son, who's only 10, every day about his emotions on up and down with making plays. You can't show them. Like, you can have them, but to express him and allow everyone to see him as a different monster, and he doesn't do it. So I think that's why he got questioned a lot. I love his poise. I love his attitude. I love his demeanor. I love how he relates to his players, how he relates to his teammates. Everything about it says that I'm a big-time player, and he has the tools and the talent. So I love everything about the kid.
You know, we talk about the poise, the composure, but Rashean, have you been on teams that had like a profile of panic, or is it more just about how the coach acts, how the coaching staff acts, that kind of lends itself to how the team behaves? Like, what part of the team, where does that panic come from? Because you look at this Jaguars team, and it's like, not only is Trevor poised and composed, it seems like the entire team doesn't really have panic in them. They'll go down 13-3 or 17-10 going to halftime and just come back like they have the lead and start scoring like it's their business.
Yes, that's a great question. I think it's you have coaches that, you know, wear their emotions on their sleeve. Jack was one of those guys. So it was us as leaders to, you know, when things get crazy, to make sure whoever missed a play or didn't make a play, go to us as leaders to go to that player and calm him down, because you never really knew what he was going to get from Jack.
Yeah, Jack wasn't going to be able to do it. I understand.
Yeah, so and those are different coaches, right?
Yeah.
Jim Caldwell up in Detroit, he was walking a day at the park walking.
He does. Sometimes that man doesn't even look like he has a heartbeat going. He's just
right. Exactly. And but when things are going good, he shows emotions a little. And I think Doug does the same thing. But when things aren't good, you're not going to see it on Doug's face that they aren't good.
No.
It's him he understands that everyone is looking at his expressions and everyone is trying to see his temperament. And I think Trevor has, I don't know if he had it in college, but he definitely has it now, that attitude where, okay, my guys are watching me. I need to let them know that we still have a chance. And I think, and Shad Cotton, he actually talked about it post game.
Yeah.
Like, we've been here before, we've been down before, and I trusted our guys. So that attitude is all around the organization. So it's great to see that they found something.
Rashean Mathis with us. Mathis on Mondays, talking about the Jags win over Tennessee and looking ahead to the Chargers game, of course. Take us through the defensive play. 2:51 to go. They call, obviously, the blitz with Rashean, and Dobbs doesn't see it. Are they taking advantage of a quarterback that hasn't played a lot of football? Is that hard for any quarterback? And what do you see from the defensive call there that made that work?
He didn't show his hand early. Jenkins didn't show his hand early, so I'm going to give Caldwell credit for dialing up the right play, right? Like, we've been kind of questioning this defensive calling all year, what he's going to do, how he's going to adjust to all the things, and I think he's adjusted well. And so you have to give the defensive coordinator a nod that he did make the right call, but also Jenkins not showing his hand early, because he came free late.
Yeah.
And if he was up on that line of scrimmage, they could have changed the protection, and that would have never happened. So great job by Jenkins, being a player that he's been all year, and executing that play and actually going for the ball and not just going for a sack, right? So there's a lot of great things that happen on that play. Coverage late, like coverage early in the down as well. Like, didn't allow him to see anybody open early, and he had to hold the ball a little longer, and we got there. So it was very well executed all the way around.
Rashawn Jenkins, one of many who was in that backfield all night. Arden Key, another name who was really putting on a masterclass on that front line. 35% win rate on his pass rush. Out of 20 passing snaps, 7 hurries. Arden Key was in this man Josh Dobbs' face all night. Talk about how much that helps the secondary, who, by the way, has been on fire for the last couple of games.
Yeah, been on fire, and we've also talked about the pass rush the last couple of games too, right? So it works hand in hand, right? So with pressure comes good defense behind it. So if you're letting any quarterback in this league, if you're just letting them sit there and pat that baby to sleep, it's going to be bad things when he lets it go, because he's going to find a window. So the pressure was awesome. I know Trayvon picked up the fumble, but he also played very well as well on the defensive line. So I just think they're a cohesive group right now that's playing well together, and we just need them to continue, because it's going to be needed as we advance.
Yeah, that's a good call. Like, I thought Trayvon played really well in this game. I thought he was dominant at times. Arden Key was sensational. And then you throw Josh Allen in, who has the scoop and score game-winning touchdown. And he has really been building this last month, Rashean. He's a guy that gets criticized, 7th overall pick, 5th-year option. I've argued in the past they should extend him. He hasn't played. The numbers don't show that they should extend him the way I've even talked about it. But what does it say that he has turned it on to the degree he's turned it on the last few weeks when it's crunch time, and then he was able to in a big-time game under the lights on Saturday? What does that say, do you think, about Josh Allen as a football player in the National Football League?
It says that he's steady, right? Like, he didn't let his shaky start or up and down season get to him as much. So it says a lot about him as a player, as an individual, his mental state, because there's been a lot of talk around him, like you just mentioned. So for him to keep poised and just keep plugging he has to have some good coaching and some good guys around him to allow him to understand what type of player he is. So, did he earn more money? Maybe not. But we'll be crazy to get rid of him, right? Like, I'm not saying that he's going to break the bank, because I don't know if he had that type of year, but he's definitely a player that we should keep around here, because his potential and his upside is still there. And, I love him as an athlete and as a player.
Yeah, what's interesting about him, Rashean, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The highs of highs, right? You win the division. You've turned it around. You're a part of it. You go on this magical run to finish. And I talked to Josh Allen right after the game, and I was like, I don't even know if I could get him to smile. He was so still matter of fact about everything. Like, what's happening in the moment? You've been a part of big games. Like, some of these guys were, like, out of their minds, but other guys celebrate or at least digest it and soak it in differently. Is there a time, like right after the game, sometimes that players can't even like really wrap their arms around everything that just happened?
Yeah, I think everyone is in a different state, right? Like, he's in a different position in his career where he understands what's coming next. And, and he knows that he needs to finish strong. And, every play matters with him right now, right? Like, so his future and everything is in the palm of his hand, and he controls it. So, there's a lot of things that's going through athletes' head that, you can't really put a finger on, or you can't really you don't understand why they're reacting the way they're reacting. But he has a lot on his mind. Like, he understands who he is as an athlete, but he also understands what he needs to do to help his team win, and what he needs to do to help his team win will help him individually as a player moving forward as an athlete in the NFL.
Rashean Mathis with us. Mathis on Mondays on ESPN 690. We'll keep you a few more minutes and let you run here on a Monday where the Jags get the win. I think we asked you this when they played the Chargers the first time around. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Now, Allen didn't play. Williams did play in that game. Remember, there was a beat-up Herbert at the time with a rib injury.
Rashawn Slater out of the game at left tackle. Yeah.
Those guys, this is a different deal.
I think Bosa was out.
Bosa ended up going out in the game early, I believe it was.
Right.
So, I mean, this is different. This is months later. This might as well be seasons later. But as a cornerback, and our cornerback here on ESPN 690, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, I feel like this is a really challenging matchup, not only because they are good, but because those guys are big, Rashean.
Yes, they're very big. They're strong. They're physical. You name it, they're what you want in a receiver. So, I know we've talked about we have a stud on one side of the field, a young stud on one side of the field. We need him to show up, right? Like, so this is the time where, you have to put a little pressure on your guys who are playing well in order to win these type of ball games. So safety lean, put pressure on the young stud, and he has to earn his keep, because we're going to need help somewhere else. And this is when we need it. We need you to play your best. I'm getting chills just talking about it, because I understand these type of games. I've been in them. I've had to match up with main guys in different situations, and this is when you want your number to be called. Like, this is when you make your money, and that's what it's all going to be boiled down to.
It's certainly a big time offense. You got big time receivers, a big time running back, certainly a big time quarterback. But what was shocking to me when I looked at the Chargers season, and it's been well reported on the injuries and everything else. Who did the Chargers win against this year? Let me read you the list of these teams, Brent. You might be surprised. They beat the Raiders week 1. They beat the Texans. Then they beat the Browns. Then they beat the Broncos. Then they beat the Falcons, the Cardinals, the Dolphins with a bad Tua. At least it was Tua, though. The Titans, the Colts, and the Rams. Those are all of their wins this year.
One winning team.
Like, that is not an impressive resume based on who their losses are. They lost to the Chiefs. Wow. They lost to the Jags, the Seahawks, the Niners, the Chiefs again, the Raiders they split with, and then they split with the Broncos. Like, find me an impressive win. It doesn't exist for them this year.
Yeah, but they did battle a lot of injuries. I'm more impressed with them because they usually find ways to get out of the playoffs even when they're good.
Like, play themselves out.
Yeah. And so they're a team you don't trust because wacky things happen to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Like, Jags have that going for them while they've got a Cinderella run going. You never know what's going on with the Chargers. I didn't see that, though. I did not realize that they had
Neither had I.
All those teams that you just mentioned don't have a winning record, except I think one of them, but might have. I think one of them.
The Dolphins.
The Dolphins, yeah. And barely, by the way.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. All right, before I let you go, I love what you just said about you're getting chills just thinking about the matchup. I like when he can get you, like, I feel like we can get you out of retirement if we keep talking to you.
It's getting close.
During
It feels
these
like
playoffs.
every week, yeah.
Until the first run play comes my way and he breaks for 15 yards, and I realize that I got to go head on head with Derrick Henry or somebody.
I thought it would be
then it puts me back in perspective. Like, okay, my body is 42 years old. I'm not built to do this anymore.
You feel all of that age on the first hit. I thought it would be a little more scientific, like a contractor gets back to you and says, oh, this D-Bats budget just got blown out of the water. Suddenly Rashean is out at the workout room trying to convince Doug to let him in.
No way, D-Bats is...
You got to condition your mind for that type of contact. It's been over 5 years, so I don't know if I can do it. It's like moving from... I've been out of the snow for 5 years. I'm not going back.
Good point. I mean, me either, man. D-Bats, by the way, on its way in May. Got to look out for it down in St. Augustine near Palencia as Rashean heads into the business venture and his love of baseball, too, as he coaches and helps tutor and mentor a lot of folks in this area who love the sport of baseball as well. Coming up, D-Bats in May. But you when you say that you get the chills and you say you welcome the matchup, I remember Jalen Ramsey telling us this at times. I always was kind of intrigued by it, how he took notes on guys, notes on players. Mm-hmm. And so Tyson Campbell plays Mike Williams early in the year. And I would imagine all corners take notes. How much do you think he's going back into those notes, that tape, what he jotted down potentially to help him in this matchup this time around, even if he's not matched up with Mike Williams all the time?
Well, you tap into them a little, but you also understand that they are taking notes as well, and it's going to be a different scheme. But there are some individual things that you learn from yourself, the things that you did well, the things that you need to do better. So, the things that you did well, you don't really, pay too much attention of. But the little things that he got you on, or the little plays that he almost made, or when your feet weren't as good as they needed to be, those are the things you go back and you take notes on. But I always say, as a cornerback, you need a couple triggers, you need a couple bullets in your chamber, and make sure when it's time to shoot your shot, you shoot it, because you're going to have opportunities. You're going to have opportunities playing against guys like this. The quarterbacks trust them, so they trust their receiver to be in certain spots. So beat them to that spot. So all it takes is 1 or 2 plays to change the game, and you just make sure you're there when your number's called. That's
a really good call. You're right. They are going to throw their way. This isn't like Tyson hasn't established himself as a shutdown guy where they're not going to throw it his
Even
way.
if he had, you have to throw to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. If you're the
those are your guys.
Yes.
That's a great point. All right, let me finish with this one, because you mentioned scheme in there, and I want to go a little deeper on it. This team, with the buttons Mike Caldwell has pushed that we've talked about so much over the last month, from Darius Williams kicking out to the rotation of Lloyd and Muma to handing the dirt for Trayvon, all those things. How different is this defense than it was back in week 3? Almost schematically, forget about how guys are playing and who's hurt or not, but schematically, is it a different look for Herbert and the Chargers?
Oh, it definitely is. They can't look at that film and get a read on us. Just like we pretty much can't look at that film and get a read on them, because they had injuries as well. So all opponents, everybody who you play, all of that stuff is out the window. We're going to have to line up and match up against them. It's going to be new looks, new guys running routes. And the same for us. It's going to be new looks, new guys in different positions. So it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be fun to see us making adjustments and them trying to make adjustments as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how we handle it.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time here today and talking about another Jags win. Mathis on Mondays. Rashean, this was the final week of the regular season. This was supposed to be it. We get a little overtime. We got to work you a little extra. You got to come back out next week.
I'm down for it, baby. I'm down for it. So it's no better feeling. No better feeling. So I'm glad to be a part of it.
I love your insight, man. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right. You guys have a great week.